Okay, so we should be ready to go. So I know you've seen examples of these. I'll turn to the sun's not in your eyes here. The sun setting is in your eyes. You've seen these done before, but Ruben and I will be your coaches. So whatever you want us to be, if you want us to be a room of 30 coaches, if you want us to be one coach, you decide what you want us to be, and we're good at pretending. So
Okay.
you let us know. There we go. We'll keep that a little better, a little higher. Perfect. How's that? Is that good?
Okay.
All right. So this would be the introduction to the workshop. So as soon as you get introduced by us, we would say, you would introduce by the partner, whatever organization it would be. They would read a couple sentences of your bio, introduce you to the group, and then say, okay, let's hear it for Coach Jesse Chic. And then you would take over from there. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the time for about 20 minutes, but don't feel like you have to stop right at 20 minutes. But usually the introduction is about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So have fun.
Well, we get ready to have fun. I would like to first and foremost just welcome everybody to this Double Gold Coaching PCA Positive Coaching Alliance session on this day. But I want to let it be known. I'm looking over and looking in the room and I see all these coaches in here. I want to know something. I want to break down these years. I want to get a little feel for who I have gathered in this room with me today. Anybody I'm going to go from the top down. Let's say we're going to say 30 years of coaching, between 30 and 20 years. Please raise your hand. If that don't do, we're going to go from 20, I'm going to go 5 to 15 years of coaching. Raise your hand. And we're going to work on down. I think I see some of y'all look young enough to say, let's say 15 to 10. Let's say a little bit more. Let's go to 10 to 5. And let me see my newbies, my 5 to 1, because I say it takes like 5 years to get some kind of real experience in coaching. Well, again, that is a known fact, but I want to go and ask the question. I want you to do something for me real quick. The person that's sitting right next to you, would you answer this question? Ask them, why did they decide to get into coaching? I would like to know, why did they decide to get into coaching? I give you about 30 seconds or so, and you mull it over, and then we'll come back together. Then we're going to follow up. It's in your hands. All right. You see those 30 seconds went around?
Yeah.
Now, I'm back. I want to ask you a question. After listening to that coach tell you why they went into coaching, ask yourself, did they go into coaching to just win ball games or to develop the holistic young man or woman in sports? Just think on that. That's very important. Just want to know about that. And then I have a follow-up question because we're going to get into this here together. Answer this for me. Can you win a game and lose? Or can you lose a game and win? I would like somebody to just spurt that out, give me some kind of feedback. Can you win a game and still lose? Or can you lose a game and still win? Who wants to take that? Take a shot at that for me.
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
I think you can do both. I think you can win a game. Well, I don't know. I think you're right. I think the winning the game is kind of a win as a win, but I've had wins for my team where they didn't play well, or maybe a scuffle happened that I didn't agree with, and we still ended up winning, or we played a team that we were much more skilled than, and we just crushed them. So it was a win, but maybe my players didn't give the best effort. So I think you can win a game and still lose in some areas. But I think even more so, you can lose a game and still have wins. I think there's been probably more games that we've lost that when looking back, they might have had the best defensive play they've ever had, or maybe the ball moved better than it ever has, or they communicated the best, or they've done things along the way that were just really, really strong, good things. And the scoreboard didn't work in our direction that day, So I think you definitely lose more games and still win probably than win more games and lose.
All right, Ruben, go ahead and give me your insight.
Yeah, I agree with Coach Kelly. I'll tell you another way I think you can win the game but lose. An NBA National Basketball Association team right now, if they're playing tonight, their star player blows out his knee and is out for the rest of the season, but they win the game, I'll tell you, every single one of those teams would rather have their star player healthy and have lost that game. So You know, there's that's something that's not in your control, but I think you can win the game, but it comes out as a loss for your team in the long run.
Okay, and just to sort of elaborate on that even more, I've been in experiences where a team has won a game, but then when they interviewed the player, he couldn't even communicate, or they didn't know how to handle that win. They acted out of character. So I say, you may have won the game, but your display of your particular character wasn't up to par. I've also seen when we've seen teams lose games, but I see the kid growing every week. They're growing in their person as a person and the camaraderie of the team. So like you said, as you said, Kelly, both sides of it, there's a positive to it, but that's what I love about Positive Coaching Alliance. We're going to work on that positive even more through this. But now, let me tell you, I didn't get a chance to let you know, but my name's Coach Chic. I want to introduce myself to you. I've been blessed to be around football for over 34 years. And I'm presently even working with a junior college now in the capacity of just developing a holistic young man. So as I looked across the room earlier and went into the years of all this great gifts and talents together, I know for a fact, as we go through this process this day, through this session, there's going to be a lot of growing. And I thank you because I know I'm going to grow from being in front of you, because I learned a long time ago, if you stop learning, you might as well stop living. So we can always learn something every day. So, and let's let it be known. So what we want to do now, we want to officially bring you on into the Positive Coaching Alliance family. We want you to sign in, please. We're going to sign in. I need you to put out them smartphones. I just graduated from a flip phone. So we're going to put out some smartphones, and we're going to go in and we're going to put the number, and we're going to say, hey, 650-763-465. And then you have a workshop number. I think it's 0000 for this number. And then you're going to put that important, your first name in there. And you're going to put your last name. And I need you to put that email address. We need that. And when you finish this whole process, please make sure to put both thumbs up. I'm not as young as I used to be. I need to see two thumbs. One may not do it. So we want to get that into it. So again, now what we want to do, as a result of that, boy, the doors that are now, the thumbs is up. Everybody got them thumbs up. Now let's slide on. I'm going to tell you, as a result of registering, you have opened up all kind of doors of information to come into your dwelling. And you get, at the end of it, you get a certificate. You have resources that's at your disposal. You have a book. I have a book here that's in the room. I know you're going to grab that book. It's slim, but they tell me it may not have a lot of pages, but it got a whole lot of quality in there. So we're going to be using this book. Don't think you're just going to let it sit there and look at that picture on the front. We're going to use it. So culture fraternity, let's get ready to move on and let's grow. Again, everybody, I know somebody, I thought I saw one person put one thumb up. You got that other thumb up? Okay, we can move on now. I want to ask you, how many of you are attending this PCA session for the first time? All right, first time, we welcome you. If you're a veteran and you've been around the block a little while and you're coming back with some more, we thank you, because as we said before, you can never stop growing in what you're doing in all things. So let's understand, whenever you go to something and you get involved in anything, you want to know a little bit about the credibility. You want to know, is this the real deal, or is it, just something that they just put together? Well, I did it in my little research too, because I got to learn in order to move forward too. I know a gentleman named John Thompson. He's the founder of PCA. And he did this in 1998 back in Stanford. He put this together. And I mean, you can feel, from me reading, I can feel his heart and his soul into what he's put together. And as a result of it, annually, they've been blessed to touch over 80,000 coaches and about 2.3 million youth that have been touched by this. So it's truly the real deal. As we say, it's a growth, it's a change for the culture of youth in sports. So we know that's the real thing. So if we can we move to the next slide? I hope I move that. Positive coaching. Let's talk about this positive coaching. Would somebody mind to tell me, when you hear the word positive coaching, what does it ring in your mind and you think about it real hard, what does that mean to you when you hear that, Kelly? Positive coaching.
I just think of a coach that brings joy to the players, enjoys what he or she is doing, and just wants it to be a fun, as you said, growing experience for every athlete.
All right, Ruben, you know I'm waiting for you, Ruben.
I'm ready for you, Coach Chick. I would say a coach that builds the players up as opposed to tears them down.
Excellent and excellent. And when I came to the conclusion from PCA, it's about building better athletes and better people. How best can you do that? That's what this is all about. I always tell people it's three things you're going to do. You're going to learn, earn, and return. So you can't return and give back if you haven't learned and earned the right way. So this is what PCA is all about, and I really enjoy it. Now, I would like to know on this here, I was just looking and thinking on it, is that as we create this here, how do we go about, when you say creating a better person and something that they're going to be, the environment, the atmosphere, the performance, it encompasses all that. And I just wanted to hear from you some stories where, give me one story where you touched somebody in the annals of your coaching with all this experience, where you say, I know I set the right atmosphere. Well, I know I brought the peak performance. Ruben, I know you've been down that road of coaching. Tell me about that, when you know that particular player or that team, where you employed that kind of thing, when you can say, I can see that this has happened. Could you share something with us? Because we need to know about that. Go on, we got to go back to. Tell me about it, Ruben.
Well, just this last weekend, I was I went to watch the team that I used to coach, and I was in the area, and I showed up at the match, and I was watching the match, and about halfway through, this big tall guy comes up to me and goes, "Do you recognize me?" And he was familiar, but I couldn't remember his name, and I said, "You're not one of my former players, are you?" And he goes, "No, but I came to your summer volleyball camp 3 years, and I just want you to know how much I enjoyed that and appreciated that. And my name's Andrew Fuller, and I'm now the sand volleyball coach at Stanford University."
Cool.
All right. Kelly, I got to come on your side of the pillow because I'm still jumping over what Ruben just said. I'm taking that back. Kelly, you mind expounding on something that you or someone that you touched to a team is in your hands?
Yeah, I was, what came to mind is a girl by the name of Casey Leap. And I coached her. She was a freshman when I coached high school lacrosse. And she was probably the worst skilled player I had on my team, but she had a heart and passion and just always in a great mood and great attitude. And she's gone through a lot in life. She actually had breast cancer and just got through it. And she is a coach of one of the competing high schools for the team I'm coaching for now. And she said she just always remembered that I believed in her. And she was a 3-sport athlete. And she said, I didn't feel like a good athlete in the other sports that I played. I felt like a good athlete in lacrosse because you believed in me. And she said she remembered me always telling her that she was stronger than she thought she was. She said, I just remembered you, even going through my treatments for chemo. I heard you yelling in my ear, you're stronger than you think you are. You're stronger than you think you are. So, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's when you know that, hey, you're touched. Not only the person, but the heart of the whole matter. And I look through this room of all these coaches in here, a lot of hearts being touched. That's why I call it the coaching fraternity. So now, do you mind going to the next slide? Because
sure.
One thing we want to let it be known is that, again, PCA is a truly reputable organization because they use and have research to back it. And then we have a Dr. Barbara Fredrickson. I mean, she set a tone that really has been a cornerstone that we were able to look at and work through PCA. And one of her quotes says that negativity does not work as well as positivity. I mean, the choir said, do we all agree the choir say the negative work don't work like positive work? When we say that, everybody believe it, say, raise your hand. There we go. So
hallelujah.
That's the reality. That's the reality. But this second quote really gets me because when she says, she mentions that coach is valuable ability in this development process. Positive emotions are especially contagious, and leaders' emotions is more contagious than anyone else's. When I heard that, it really grabbed me, because what it said to me is that coaches, you impact more young men and young women in 1 year than some people in a lifetime. Just think about the impact that you have on individuals. I mean, you can make, they say, and I heard this before, that death and life is in the power of the tongue. Realize when you said you can't take it back. So how much more we as coaches have to realize when we're speaking with these young men and young women, the impact and the effect that you have on them. I can just share one of my stories of just coaching. I know a young man that I sat and I spoke with him, and I knew his household situation was that. Found out that the young man was living, the house family was living in a car, but he would always come to practice, and he would be there every day. And you don't know, if you haven't created that relationship with him and communicating with him, to know the impact that you have outside of the game to make him stay whole and continue to want to excel in the sport and willing to grow in life. You don't realize who you entertaining. And I never forget just sitting with him and knowing he would come. Stella ran to come to practice every day. And what I realized, it was because he knew that somebody cared. Just cared to really listen to his heart and not just his head, and just listen to him and talk him through and make him realize how important he was. And not to take away from his family, but at that time, I can't be his, I'm not a father to him, but I was a father for him when he was in my presence. That's the importance of us as coaches. And that's what we're assembled here today, because it's more than just coaching X's and O's. It's about coaching life. So we definitely want to make sure that we understand that part of it. But I want to open up to see if there's anything that you as coaches might want to expound on, that that out of just listening to this here, that resonating to you, and say, yeah, this, as you mentioned, Kelly, I go back to the young lady. Did you know how much impact you had on that young lady? Did you know, Kelly, when you was coaching her, that what you did to bring more years to her life?
No, I didn't.
You can't. Ruben, you mentioned that's what I want us to understand. That's why we're here with this session today, to get better at what we do, so that we can do it much better. And that's what this is all about. And then on top of that, I was listening. We said, look here, let's go.
You can get the door if you need to. If you need to get the door, go ahead.
Okay. I sent them a loving with the Lord kind of look. They know that I talk to them in the field. They knew I'm busy.
Okay.
And then we said, I think it's another slide talks about Sports Illustrated. And I was saying Sports Illustrated, and what they spoke about, they said in 3 years of just going in, they said that verbal way of coaching is not going to do it no more. They said we got to take a different approach. And I'm going to tell you, I'll be open to everybody. I'm an old school coach from way back. 34 years take you pretty far back. So at a point in time, I had a way of coaching that was pretty demanding in his own way. But you know what? If you have ear to hear and a heart to receive, you begin to realize you got to take a different approach. And that's what I love about this course that we're taking. It shows you that you can still get it done. It's just how you go about doing it. And as we said earlier, definitely negative is more adversely in the long term. And when we say that long term, why would you two think that the long term approach of negativity, how much it can really just, what have you seen through your annals of time, what negativity does to not only on the field, but off the field to young men and young women in sports? Ruben, why don't you take a shot at that first?
I would say that it discourages. It tends to discourage them in the long run, and they can eventually shut down if they experience too much negativity.
That's right. That's right. Kelly, what about you, dear?
I think they're just afraid to play their best. I got to watch a group of girls yesterday that were yelled at after a drill, and they came out to do it again, and they were playing it so safe. They weren't having fun. They were really afraid to make a mistake, and it just limited them completely.
That's an excellent insight. I just want to share one real quick with you. I know a young man that played, it was in the basketball arena. And from observation and the way the coach addressed him and treated him and also gave him a falsehood that he was going to be the next pro and all those things came to this young man. It became such a negative impact on him. This young man was walking down the runway at O'Hare in Chicago, and they had to come and get him because he might have got hit by a plane. Just to show you again how if you don't make sure that you give them a reality check and give them the real understanding that it's a game and you're gonna go, you got to move on. But if you infusing in them and getting on them and pressing them and telling them you got to do this, and if you don't make it, you're no good, then they feel they fail. And he felt that he failed, so that it took him to a point of almost taking his life. That's when I look at how important, again, we are and what negativity can do to an individual. So that was something I'll never forget. And I took that with me as I went on my continued road of coaching. So now, if we don't mind, I want to hit that next slide, and I think we're going to move on into understanding. PCA, we've been talking about things, and but flashback, don't move the slide, but a flash. I want to let people know now, PCA is not an organization that said we're going to walk through the let's say through the field on tulips and everybody's going to be kumbaya. No, we believe in competition now. I mean, we believe in putting forth competitive fellowship. We want you to play hard. You go out to win a game, but it's how you go about winning the game. And are people growing while they're winning the game? Or even if they lose the game, are they growing? So we want everybody to understand that, because sometimes people read things and they get a misconcept. No, I coached for 30-some years. Believe me, I likes to win. And I know you like to win. If I said, everybody who likes to win, raise your hand. Come on, y'all, get them hands up. Let's get that straight. And so why not take an example from some elite coaches that's been down that road and have won? And I tell you, we have a illustrious list. We have about 8 of them in front of you, but there's 24 of them in the book. If you look on page, I love this book on page 8 and 9. You take the book, you go on page 8 and 9, and you'll see a list of, I think it's 11 of them, but there's 24 total. And I found out through my study and research, there's 211 of them. I didn't know there's 211 of them. So when you live, you learn, and you learn, and you live. I learned, and look at them. If you look in there and you look and say, that's the coach I always respected. But now you're going to find a little bit more about him. I always tell the players, if that's the one you look up to, go and research and learn something about him, and you'll be surprised what you learn. So again, that's proof in the pudding there that this formula works. It works. It works each and every day. So let us not fall in the blunder thinking that it does not work. When you get this book, I want you to take it and read it, and you'll be surprised how much you learn out of it. So in that, everybody might say again, is positive the best or is negative the best? Well, we know that already because we in this group, we've understood that. So let's go to that next slide. Did we get to that next slide? If I'm here, I hope I didn't slip here and there, but that's all right. We're going to keep on going. Again, PCA has a formula, and we spoke about that in 9, but I have a question. I got to reiterate that. My question to you is that if you could do it over, I always ask people, if you could do something over again as a coach, what's one thing that you say you did that if you had an opportunity to do it over again, you'll do it a little different? I want you to think on that. That's something I always said. If people say we could turn back the hands of time, what's one thing you think you would do different as a coach? You said, wow, I wish I would have done that different. Kelly, is it anything that you say, it's one thing I think I would have done different?
Yeah, sure. So 25 years ago, actually, I started coaching right out of college, and I was young. I was about 22 years old, coaching Division II basketball. So these girls were about the same age as I was, a little bit younger. And I came in with the attitude like I had to get them to respect me. So I went in with this like I wasn't going to smile. I was going to be tough. If they, disrespected anything, they got on the line and they ran. And I wouldn't say I was a negative coach, but I definitely wasn't showing them that I cared about them first. It took me till about halfway through the season to realize I wasn't getting anywhere. But I was so worried that they weren't going to respect me as a coach because I was similar age to them. So I came in with like that tough love kind of approach, and didn't work. Didn't work for me.
Okay.
It's not who I am either. It was not who I was as a person. I just thought that's who I had to be.
Okay. What about you, Ruben? I appreciate you giving me a little insight on this.
Yeah, mine's similar to Kelly's. I wish I had been less insecure as a coach. For an example would be, I remember times when players would ask me questions, and I would take it as questioning my authority or my strategy, and it wasn't that at all. Now that I look back, I realized no, they just didn't understand completely, and they wanted to understand. They were engaged, and I remember even yelling at players when they asked questions. And boy, I wish I could take that. I wish I could do a do-over on those. That's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things I always tell people, I said, if I could do it over again, I try to coach a little bit more of my heart, because sometimes I coach too much with my head. When you coach with your head, sometimes things can come out that just dots don't connect. And in your heart, you shouldn't have said that. But I overrode the heart, because the heart tends to lead you the right way. And I really found that out in dealing with young men, that they can feel your heart. They may listen to what you're saying, but they really feel your heart. We want to make sure that we do that. And one thing I love about, I think PCA vision is one that I just love. I love the PCA vision. It just lays out, it's just, it provides us with those best practices of how to reach those particular goals. Like I asked before, can you win and lose, and can you lose and win? It's based on how you go about it. It's the formula that you use. And that's the thing I like about PCA. They give you a formula, and they give you all the support you need. You can go in and you have everything you need to understand the principles that they lay out for you to make this thing happen and make it be a very positive experience for those that you come in contact with. And that's what we're moving towards, and saying, you have the gift. We just want the gifts to flow accordingly so that people can get what they need, as we say, creating better athletes and better people. And in that, when we say, as we move into that realm, we say, what makes a great youth sports experience? What would you two, whoever wants to go first, what do you think it takes to make a great youth sports experience? Either one of you, feel free.
I think it takes a coach that cares, parents that support you, and teammates that are looking out for you and supporting each other.
Excellent insight. Ruben, if you don't mind.
I can't disagree with any of what Kelly said. Those are all good ingredients. I think having fun, I think getting to play in games, experience the excitement, the thrill of competition. I think those are some other things that make for a great experience.
And that's what I love about what both of you said, that great experience. I'd say like that man's a word called teamwork makes the dream work. Feeling connected. You got to feel connected. That's what PCA is talking about. I want them to feel connected. I want them to improve on what they're doing, get better at what you're doing every day, and provide opportunity for the ability to really just step out and just display the greatest integrity that you can as an individual, on and off the field of play. That's what this is all about. We want to connect the dots of success. And through that connected, we're going to move into a session where we're going to talk about connecting the emotional tank. We're going to speak about integrity and honoring the game. And we're going to talk about improving the tree of mastery. This is what this is going to be about. And Herm Edwards sort of summed it up in this video. We put that up there where Herm Edwards had something to say that was very, very pertinent for everybody. And when you read through it at the end of it, says is that if I asked both of you, what do you want your legacy to be when you complete your deed here in the area of sports? Kelly, what would you want your legacy to be?
I really want the players to know I cared about them. and I helped them to grow as people, and I helped them to love the sport and love to play sports. I think that's a big part of it. It's just, I think sports are really important as you go throughout your life, and I want kids to love competition and love and know that I cared about them.
And Ruben, again, you didn't touch so many. Touch me with what's your legacy. Go ahead.
Well, I'd like my former players to have considered me to be a good role model. Help them get better, and that I worked hard for them.
All right. Well, you know what we're going to do because of all that? We're going to roll on into the rest of this session, and we're going to move on in to, let's talk about emotional tank as we move on. Thank you. And have a continued blessed day.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun, Jesse. How'd you feel doing that?
It was an honor and a pleasure to definitely, when you and those that's been doing it for a long time, it's a pleasure and honor to be in your midst. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the opportunity.
You are welcome. I enjoyed it too. I always joke that I usually take comments, I'm writing down comments, writing down things I like that you did, writing down things you might have done differently. And then half the time I'm just stealing things. So I wrote down a lot of quotes today, Jesse, that I liked, that I might have to ask your permission to steal.
Hey, I don't mind, I'll tell you. He give it to me and I just give it to everybody.
I love it. I love it. I can feel that. But you know what I do appreciate first, and then I'll let Ruben give you some feedback. I appreciate, because I know you are a man of God and you're spiritual and it flows out of you. And I appreciate that in a setting of a PCA workshop, that I definitely felt that, but it wasn't right out there in the open. And I think for somebody with your personality to discern enough to be able to know when to share that with the coaches and when not to, I really admire you for that, because I think you handled it very, very well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So Ruben, I would love to hear some feedback from you from Jesse, things that you thought he did well, maybe areas that he could tighten up a little bit, and then I'll follow up.
Kelly, I'll try to be brief and let you give the majority of the feedback.
Okay.
Coach, your passion, your personality. I mean, can't say enough about that. How strong it is, and how enjoyable it is to experience that with you. I think the main thing that I liked, the thing I liked most about what you did with us, was the constantly pulling us in with interaction. Mm-hmm. You started right out of the gate. Had us talk with a neighbor and share why we got into coaching. Your question about can you win the game and still lose, and vice versa. I think that was very engaging. Later on, when you asked us about our stories of impact, mm-hmm. Here's a chance for us to personalize this. You just with two participants, you drew out two pretty powerful stories, mm-hmm. With just two participants. I like what would you do different, Coach? Mm-hmm. What would you do different? Now, remember when you asked that, some people, this might be their first time coaching, but for most people, they've coached before. And mm-hmm. if you've coached at all, there's something you would do different. There's probably many things. So I like that question. I've been through these demos many, many times, and yet I have rarely been asked to think about what I would go back and change or do differently. So mm-hmm. To sum up, Jesse, among the many things I enjoyed about your demo was the amount of interaction you brought to it. Mm-hmm. Now, Kelly, I do want to ask both of you. I'm going to do a little game with you both. Jesse, I gave you a quiz, right, on the Power of Double Goal Coaching book. Here's a little follow-up quiz. Let's see if you understand where I'm going with this. So I'm going to throw out some words, and I want you both to tell me if you think that this word could be compatible with positive coaching. Okay, if this word, it's all adjectives. If you think this word that could describe a coach, if they could still be a positive coach, even with this word that I throw out. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Do you think you understand what I'm asking, Coach Chic?
I'm with you.
Okay,
yeah, we're here.
Here's the first one. Win at all cost.
Not,
No.
no.
Not compatible. Okay, easy.
No.
Okay, started you off with an easy one. Okay.
Woo! We got the first
Okay.
one.
All right, Kelly.
All right. Strict.
Would you say that again?
Strict.
Strict.
No, I would say it's a measuring stick, but you can get too extreme with it.
Okay, so you could get too extreme. Kelly, how would you answer? Can you be a positive coach?
I think you can be a positive coach and be strict. As long as you're doing it in the right way, I think you can.
How do you feel about that, Coach?
I concur with it. You have to strictness it, but you can't just don't take too extreme.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about this? Intense.
Oh, for sure. That can be positive, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. We're on the same. Abusive.
No.
No.
No way, right? No way. Okay. No way. Loud.
Yeah.
Positive. Positive. It can be positive.
Cerebral.
Yes, positive.
Yeah.
Okay. Demanding.
Positive. Just how demanding.
Yeah.
Okay. Emotional.
Oh, for sure. That's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Tough.
Tough.
Yeah.
Oh
Tough.
yeah, tough love.
Okay.
Sure.
Demeaning. Competitive.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Positive.
Winning.
Yes.
Yes, it's good.
Winning. Okay. All right. So the reason I did this is that at one point, Coach, you used the word, when I was younger, I was that old school. I was that demanding coach.
Okay.
And you use the word as if it was a negative, or that and it could be maybe what you meant is I was overly demanding, or I was demanding in an abusive way. But demanding, and along with because I've heard some other trainers, even experienced trainers, say, yeah, I used to be super intense. Well, you know what? Steve Kerr is intense too, and Brad Stevens. So anyway, I think you guys know where I was going with this little exercise. Thank you for playing along with me.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, Ruben.
Sure.
I agree with a lot of the things Ruben said. I just really was drawn in to what you were saying and what you were doing. And I love the fact that this was about me, and it was about the coaching, and it wasn't about the slideshow. That was my favorite part, that you were following along, but you weren't married to it. And I love that you were just flowing and talking and telling stories, and so well practiced and so rehearsed that, you know what? I mean, I loved even when you got to the slide with Ken Revisa and Charlie Marr talking about negativity, and you knew, like, I already talked about negativity. I don't have to go into that again. Like, that's what we want trainers to do, to be able to think about that and say, I don't need to, you've already talked about negativity. Let's just keep going. And I wrote down, like, smooth. You were just very smooth and had a great flow. And I really appreciate that, because in the beginning, when you started talking, I was like, oh man, like, this is going to go long. And you went a little bit longer, but you didn't go, you went like 25 minutes instead of 20 minutes. And that's perfectly fine. I think that's great. So I really just appreciated you doing that. I love, can you win a game and lose a game and win? I think that's a great topic for coaches to talk about on their own, because that's like a thinker, like, to get people to really think about that. I think that's a fantastic question. I love that. And I also, just some of your quotes, if you stop learning, you start living, like, just a lot of these things that I know that you just believe in so strongly. And as a new coach sitting in your workshop, I'm going to be eating that up, because I'm going to be looking at someone that's been coaching for 34 years, and you're coaching football. You're not just coaching. I mean, no offense to, like, tennis players, but I'm you're coaching a very manly, masculine sport, and you can tell that you care so much about those players, and that's how you get the most out of them. Because some of the pushback that we get is when coaches say, well, that might work in some sports, but I coach football. I can't show I care. Or I coach ice hockey. I can't show I care. So I love that about you, that you know that that's what gets the best out of the athletes. So I love that. I think you plugged the book really well. I think the book is a really great resource, and you did that justice. The text to sign in, you did really well. The only thing I noticed you said wrong was that you called him John Thompson instead of Jim Thompson, who's the founder. You know, that was the only tweak that I was like, I thought Ruben was going to point that out. He usually picks up that kind of stuff more than I do. So that was the only one. Call him Jim instead of John.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Not a big deal. The other thing, storytelling is so powerful. And I love the way you asked us to tell a story. You asked us to think of a story first, and then you also added a story. I mean, again, that's how we're drawn in. That's how we're connecting. And I thought that was fantastic. Even the phrase coaching fraternity, I thought that was just great. I mean, you can even say, I mean, that's why we're called a coaching alliance. That's the word that we use, is alliance, but it is a fraternity of coaches, and we're in this together. So, you know, you can always say, like, we're a coaching fraternity. That's why we're called the Positive Coaching Alliance, because that's what we're here to do, is bring everyone together. So I thought that was great. The quote that you said about coaches impact more in 1 year than many do in a lifetime, I've heard that quote 3 times in 1 week from different trainers. And do you know who said that quote?
You know what? I just can't think of offhand. I really can't think of offhand.
Reverend Billy Graham said that quote. Yeah, he's the one that said that. So I thought that, I think it's a great quote. And, you know, most people that know Billy Graham knew that he was a fantastic football player. So I thought that was great. I just think your stories were really good. Your story about the player that, you know, lived in his car and came to practice because you cared about him, and the player that, you know, almost took his own life. Like, those are stories that resonate. Those are stories that are like, that should be in the introduction to a workshop on positive coaching, because I think our you know, big slide up there that says the power of positive, I don't think many coaches realize the power and influence. I almost think it should say the influence of positive coaching, or the influence you have as a coach in people's lives. So I thought that was fantastic. And I liked also your honesty and your transparency when you said, you know, years ago, I was, you know, I wouldn't have done this the way I did now. You know, I coach differently. I realized that didn't work. I think that's good for you to be honest too, so that people don't think you are the perfect coach all the time, that you came a long way and you learned, and now you're here to share what you've learned with us. So I think that's great. I love, you know, the National Advisory Board. You pointed out where it is, and that there's 211 of them. I think that really is impressive to people sometimes, to think, wow, there's 211 professional coaches and athletes that are on board with that. I think it's great. If you could do it over, again, I agree with Ruben. Fantastic question. I love that. The other quote that I think you said really quickly, and it stuck with me when you said, I need to coach more with my heart than with my head. And I just think that is so true. There's so many times in coaching that I've wanted to coach with my head. And I think, man, if I coach with my heart, it's different. And I actually had a trainer yesterday say, a coach once told him, a coach mentor once said, coach to the individual, not the team. If you think of every player as an individual and you coach to the needs of that individual, you're going to be a phenomenal coach. If you look at the team as a whole, you're going to coach a lot more with your head, I bet. So I thought that was great. So the only thing that you skipped over, again, that you're going to get to it later, but this model of what a double goal coach is, because it's the title of the workshop, and because you're going to have new coaches there that don't know what this double goal means, you brought up, like, who likes to win? And I thought that's where you were going to go from that. Like, who wants to win? The double goal is winning and teaching these life lessons. So, you know, it's probably just an oversight, but I just want to make sure that that's an important part just to put in the introduction, because after they're finished, they're going to be certified double goal coaches, just so they understand what that terminology means. Okay. All right. But I'm thrilled. I thought it was great. Really enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, it's an honor and a pleasure. And I thank you too for giving me your time and all the information and insights. And I'm always about learning.
Nice. I love it. So Jesse, do you feel comfortable to do, like, the next demonstration that I usually have you do is on one of the principles? And the principle is different than the introduction, because that's what really gets into the meat and bones. Like, this is where you get into the tools, you get into how do you work this in your life. Here's some ways we can help you as coaches, the takeaways, they can practice some of these tools. Would you be comfortable doing it on a Google Hangout like this again?
I don't mind. That'd be good. As all, you can never stop learning.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is set up another Google Hangout at another time to pick one of the principles: emotional tank, Elm Tree of Mastery, or honoring the game. And I want you to try to keep it to about 20 minutes. 20 minutes, okay. And then what we can do, I can talk to Joe Tarasi, and he's going to set up a place for you to do your final one live.
Okay.
So we'll set that up with him. I'll tell him that you're ready to go.
Okay.
And so we'll have you do a practice of one of the principles with me on a hangout, and then we'll have you set it up to do your final demonstration live for some PCA people in Chicago.
Okay, no problem. I'll do that.
All right.
I get back with you. I'm just going to say I watched your emotional tank.
Yeah.
When you did it, I really enjoyed that one. So my heart is my head and my heart is working on that one.
I love it. I love it.
Filling that tank. I like filling the tank.
It's great. It's great. All right. Well, enjoy your evening. Thank you, Ruben, also for joining us.
Thank you, Ruben. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you, Kelly, for everything.
Thank you both. Take care.